Hey, this is Sonia from Weakened Friends, and you're listening to My Weekly Mixtape with Brian Colburn.
What is going on, friends? Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, the show that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn, and as I've said many times over the years, I'd like to think of My Weekly Mixtape as a community, not just a show, and every mixtaper listening is just as much a part of the conversation as I am. Last October, Patreon mixtaper Chad LaMassa was raving about a new album he'd picked up, Weakened Friends Feels Like Hell. And after sitting down with the album myself, I immediately agreed with his passion for this album, hence why the band has continued to come up in conversations since the album's release. So tonight, I'm grateful to take that conversation to the next level as I'm joined by Sonia Sturino of Weakened Friends. Sonia, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Stoked to be on.
So, since it's your first time on the show, let's start with the basics. What does the word mixtape mean to you?
I feel like it feels very nostalgic. It's something I was a little bit, I guess I'm a little too young for the mixtape, but a little too old to not know what a mix CD is. So I remember making mixes growing up, like in the heyday of downloading songs and burning them on CDs and giving them to your friends. But I think it just, yeah, good way to share music.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're here to talk about the band's latest release, Feels Like Hell.
Tell me I'm not crazy. Tell me I'm still a maybe. Tell me how you doing lately. Tell me. Now all this time has passed. There's something off about your face. I can see it in your eyes, the way you just don't move the same. So I stalk you from the screen, and it makes me feel insane. I used to be around, and now you're just these lights and sounds.
Kicking things off tonight with a little sneak peek of the song Nosebleed. As a fan, this album feels like the culmination of what would be a decade-long journey, especially considering your Gloomy Tunes EP came out in 2015. Can you talk about the band's musical evolution over the last 10 years and how it led you to Feels Like Hell?
Yeah, we've just constantly been doing the thing. I know that's what every band can say, but we've been working hard and really just diving into like trying to write good songs. I think the main ethos of the band for me has always been I want to be a fan of my own music. So whatever project, whatever record we're making, I'm writing music to be a fan of those songs. I want to feel like they're songs I would listen to or enjoy listening to if I wasn't making them. And that stayed through the whole time. I think as a band, we've grown quite a lot. We've had some lineup changes with our drummer. Annie's recorded and engineered everything and produced everything we've ever made. And she's grown tremendously in that. And I mean, it's always been awesome, but so much growth. And then just Annie and I working more collaboratively, even just at the starting stages of songwriting and co-writing has been like a new development in the most recent years of our band. So just, yeah, always growth while still maintaining like the same ethos of just like wanting to make music that like you actually care about.
Well, what drew me initially to the band is that I am personally very much a musical chameleon. So when I hear a band that I can't easily describe to someone, you have my attention. So if someone were to ask me if Weakened Friends were punk, emo, alternative rock, indie, or pop, my answer would be yes.
Nice.
So how do you strike a balance between genres while staying authentic to what you want to create as an artist?
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that because I just love so much music. There's so many different kinds of music that I listen to. And I think a lot of artists share that, but I never found myself as like a music listener to be like pigeonholed into like one genre. I've always been all over the map since I was a kid, and I think a lot of times like you tend to pigeonhole yourself genre wise because enjoyment of art and enjoyment of music can also be a place where when you're growing up and when you're younger, where you find your self-expression and you find like who you are as a person. And I guess I've just like always been like maybe a mess of a person. I don't know. I've like really just liked so much shit. And I don't really think genre specific when I'm writing. I feel as though every song is telling its own story and has its own like character or its own set of characters. And I kind of just approach songwriting in that way and in a sense of like be true to the character of the song, sort of as if you were like, it was like a movie or like, you're not going to like keep making the same movie over and over again. So I just don't want to keep writing the same song. I think there are things that are through line, like, my voice and our sound. But yeah, I guess it's really all over the map for me.
Now, the band has worked with Don Giovanni Records since 2018's Common Blah. Can you talk about that relationship and what the label brings to the band?
Yeah, we love Joe at Don Giovanni. It's a small operation. When we signed on with them, it was very much like told to us, this is a very indie DIY label. They had worked and continue to work with amazing artists, have put out some of my favorite records, but it really is a small operation. And with that, you get a lot of real FaceTime with the people who are working behind the label, and they're humans. And it always has felt like in a world where everything is just so driven to be like content, like sell your soul, like do anything you can, like we're gonna take all your money. Like there was never any of that at all from Don Giovanni, which is really supportive. And I think the more and more I do this, the more I realize like the people who come at you and try to like flash all these like promises and like dangle the carrot in front of you are the most bullshit. And the people who are actually there to like help you and support you will just like show up and be there consistently and be down to listen and will be like honest. And that's always been my experience with Don Giovanni and with Joe, just like super honest and there to meet you in the middle and to work with you.
Well, as a whole, Feels Like Hell tackles some heavy themes, both musically and lyrically. So, on one side of the spectrum, you have anxiety and burnout, but on the other, survival. And I think that becomes immediately clear as soon as you press play on Tough Luck, Bleed Me Out.
I work like a machine. I don't sleep and I don't eat. I'll be whatever you need. Fill the void by avoiding everything. I don't know if it's working. Fingers crossed on my back that it falls apart. I don't know if I'm learning. Information goes in, but I'm blacking out. Tough luck, thought I needed, but I don't. I've had enough. Get fucked, you're a poison in my veins. I'll tear 'em out till I'm nothing. Bleed me out till I'm nothing. Bleed me out. I talk like
Can you talk about how those themes weave throughout the album as a whole?
Yeah. I'm someone who's like very aware of like the world around me and I have sensitivities to all types of emotion. I guess that's just describing being human, but it's not always a given these days.
Right, right.
And we're living in a time where there's just a lot of newness to how people go about being terrible and how people plan to destroy our planet. And it could be very overwhelming and sometimes it can feel very hopeless. And there's this like through line, I think, for people to feel like nihilistic about it because of that and want to just be like, well, let it all burn, whatever. But what I've always learned through making music and just as a person is that there's so much more power in community and like surviving it and being hopeful. So where there's like a lot of catharsis on those like negative feelings and emotions and observations on this record or in any of the music I write, whether they're looking inwardly or outwardly. At the same time, like I like that you bring up survival because it's the times we're living through, and I believe that like, you'll always get to the other side. And the other side is also the reality that there is a lot of good and there's a lot to live for and there's a lot to show up for. And when we go and play these songs live and you see people like connecting and relating and singing along, it's like that's the reason why you survive. That's the reason why you keep making art and creating. And that's really actually quite beautiful.
That it certainly is. Now, in the liner notes, you talked about having a few years of writer's block leading up to this album.
Yeah.
Can you dive into how you took what conceivably could have been a breaking point for the band and how you turned it into a breakthrough instead?
Yeah. I After our second record, Quitter, we had been touring a lot. Like COVID had just happened and then things did start opening up again and we started just like hitting the road and playing a ton of shows and like a lot of that was like support tours for like bigger bands where we were the opening act and just getting out and doing that. And we did so much of that. And then when I would come home, like when you tour at that level, it's really exhausting. And there's really no way to sugarcoat it. It's like that time you get on stage, you feel like a fucking superhero and you feel like you're just out there doing the coolest thing in the world. But the reality outside of that is just like a lot of grind and a lot of struggle and a lot of like sleeping in weird places and not sleeping at all and not treating your body well, not treating your mind well. And so I think grinding at that level and as a band for as long as we did and as long as we kind of still are at times, it made me feel like really burnt out. And so when I would come home and then sit down to like write or create, it's hard to want to get in that headspace and write and create when you have this like negative connotation to like the art itself, because now it's become this like thing that's causing a lot of like hardship in your life, which is a lot to deal with, especially because it's something you ultimately do love and that makes you you. And so I think like refinding a relationship with music and creating music that felt safe and that felt fun and that felt like removed from those feelings of burnout and those feelings of like stress and hardship and the grind. That was something that just took time. And I'm happy we got there. I'm happy we got through it and we're able to again turn it around and then make the record we did. And I'm so proud of this record and I'm so happy to see people finding it and finding our band for the first time through this record. So, and I'm so happy ultimately just be in a place where I just feel so much more positive about making art and making music and getting to tour and getting to be in a band. And that took a lot of like self work as well. But yeah, we turned it around.
So when you're writing material, have there been moments where you're leaning into that honesty that you're talking about, even when it's raw and it cuts you to your core, that ends up creating the strongest connection with fans?
I think so. I I feel like while I am writing, the emotion never feels like really there for me. Like I usually if I'm writing something, I've already kind of processed the emotion of it beforehand. And so I'm not like feeling it like necessarily like in like it almost like you're almost like a conduit to it. Like it comes back to your brain from like a past memory and then you're like putting it into a song. So it's interesting because sometimes I'll write something and it is really emotional and it's like not until we get to a point where like we get on stage and then play it and like hear people screaming it back and like really connecting with it or like sharing their stories that then like those emotions I went through or witnessed become real again. And you're just like, it's so nice to like have that together, I guess.
Well, just a quick reminder to anyone listening, you can hear the full versions of all the songs we're talking about tonight on all the streaming services, but let's be honest, physical media is always better. So be sure to grab a copy of Feels Like Hell on vinyl or CD, either via Weakened Friends Bandcamp page or even better, from their merch booth at their live show. But
Oh, yeah.
just as a reminder, you can also hear all the songs we're discussing tonight via the playlist I embedded on the episode page over at myweeklymixtape.com. Now, the band's collaborated with the insanely prolific Buckethead on NPC, which, for those that don't know the vernacular, it's in the video game world as well as modern slang known as non-player character. Honestly, I couldn't imagine a more perfect musical mind to help bring that concept to life. His
Mhm.
guitar solo in this track starts off like a glitch in a video game that paints the musical picture more perfect than I can even describe here. Just take a listen for yourself.
Maybe we're just already dead, or we're living in a city.
Now, was that solo entirely Buckethead's vision, or did you share the concept of the song with him beforehand?
Yeah, we spoke about it. So we got into the studio, and he's just someone who loves to like share music and share his process and share what he's working on, and like very collaborative energy, or has been at least to us. And we kind of talked about like having him guest solo on a song. And when that song finally came together, I wanted that sound of like the like if you're an NPC and you're living in this like manufactured or artificial universe, the idea of it just like tearing apart and like glitching out and kind of just ripping the whole thing apart in this like big glitch explosion. And I was like, I think I know the guy who can play guitar exactly like that. So I did send that like as like an idea, but then I also love how he starts with that, and it's this like crazy, like it does feel like the computer is about to explode. The fabric of reality is just splitting apart. But then he also has like there's like some of my favorite little like melody licks
Mhm.
in the back half of the solo that are just like really lovely and so cool. 'Cause I'm a very like melodic guitar solo kind of person. I mean, if I'm left to my own devices, so I like that he kind of blended both worlds, and it's like so him. It's so Buckethead. You like know that's who that is as soon as you hear it.
And did the collaboration maybe introduce your band to people that maybe heard of you through Buckethead?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we got to open for him in LA back in December, and there were a lot of people who then came out to some of our West Coast dates who were at that show. And it's really cool. They're always like such nice fans. Like they like come up to the merch booth after, like had chat with them, like always had like such a nice like spirit and story to share. Like definitely like in the best way possible. I mean, there's like music nerds, like people who just like love music. I mean, I think if you do like Buckethead, you're kind of a music nerd, which is awesome. I mean, he's released like hundreds of records and is just, always putting out new material. So yeah, it was really cool to see them at our shows. And I never really thought there would be like a crossover. And I guess like I was a little worried when we were paying to open that show that like people would not receive us as well, or just like think it was weird that we were there, but they were all super excited. And there was a lot of people who really liked our stuff, so that's awesome.
Well, next, I want to touch on one of my personal favorite tracks on the album, that being Smoke and Mirrors. This is one of the most visceral moments on Feels Like Hell. Yet, like we talked about earlier, to me, this song has that sense of survival in the lyrics, choosing self-preservation over resentment as you walk away from something that's completely one-sided. Looking back, what did that moment of preservation teach you about yourself, both as maybe a person and as a songwriter?
Yeah, you always have to set boundaries, and that's something I have only recently come around to. I think setting boundaries is so great. I've always been known in the past, not really anymore, but I used to have a little bit of a temper and I would like let things get to me and I'm Italian, so I can be a little spicy at times and get a little aggro, but I in more recent times like just like advocating for yourself, setting boundaries and like when you're in situations where you are being taken advantage of or you feel like that tension, all you need to do is just be like, I think of the lyric is like, I can't hold this ladder anymore. I got to climb it for myself. Is just be like, it's good to be helpful. It's good to be there, but you have to know that point where it's like, okay, and now I need to like put my own like, life jacket on and my own, mask on before I can help others. And then, yeah, like as a songwriter, I guess with that one, it was just like a really cathartic one to bust out, I guess, especially if like the wound is fresh in those situations with some of that animosity. It was like really nice to put that down.
I think I could speak for a lot of people when I say that that catharsis comes from maybe the songwriting as well as in the audience hearing that song, because it's something a lot of people can relate to in one
Sure.
facet or another.
Definitely.
Now, another thing I love about this album, and here's where my music nerd comes into play, song dynamics. I've talked about this on the show before with Eric Bass of Shinedown and Chris Geringer of Sterling Sound. And if Annie were on the call tonight, I'd be asking her this from a recording perspective, but I want to ask you this from a songwriting perspective. When
Mhm.
I hear tracks like Nosebleed and Queen of Town, both of those tracks feel hyper focused on this roller coaster of loud into quiet passages. Was that something the band wrote with intent, or was that a product of Annie's, as you mentioned, incredible studio mastery on full display?
Mhm. Well, I feel like Annie is amazing at capturing that. I have always leaned a little into the drama. I love pop music. I love the drama in pop music and I love the loud, quiet. I love a dramatic song. Again, I'm Italian, right? It's like I feel like there's so much drama in that culture and in the music of that culture. Like growing up with like Italian music, actually, my parents are from Italy, so I have a very strong connection, I guess, or experience with the culture. And yeah, I just like love drama. I love a dramatic song. I love a song that has range. I find myself like so bored sometimes when something's just a little too streamlined. So yeah, it makes it fun for me. It feels fun to do.
Well, now I'm going to tap into a song that I'm sure you've talked about at nauseum. And I hate to spoil past episodes of the show, but this past December, Weakened Friends cover of Ednaswap's Torn kicked off my Sound of Cover Songs 2025 episode.
Nothing's fine, son. I'm a lot of faith. This is how I feel. Cold and iron shame, lying naked on the floor. Illusions never change into something real. I'm wide awake and I can see the perfect sky is torn.
And while so many people know Torn from Natalie Imbruglia's iconic pop take on the track, I feel like your band's version honors both the spirit of the original song while moving it fully into Weakened Friends universe to the point where it no longer feels like a cover song. It just feels like a natural extension of the tracks on Feels Like Hell. Can you talk about the band's approach to covering this track and maybe what the mindset in closing the album with it was?
Yeah. So I'll start at the end of your question because I think closing the album with it for me felt like a bonus track. In my mind, the album ends at Great Expectations, and then Torn was like the bonus track because we did release Torn before the album rollout started to happen. And again, that's how I decided to put that last, or we decided to set that one last. Yeah, that song just came about out of the fact that we were like doing a cover would be fun, and we already had done a version of it for our Patreon page years ago. We would do like this like a subscriber poll and have different themes and have people pick what song they wanted us to do. And that one was like one of the top voted on. And then years later, we were heading out on tour with our friends in the band Slothrust, who are this incredible band and great friends of ours. This was in like early 2024. And we were like, let's shake up our set. Like, we're the opening band. One of the things they do a lot is they do a lot of covers, and they do these awesome covers. They did a cover of Genuine's Pony, and they completely like, revamped it into like this like really heavy guitar rock song. You know, they've done like Britney Spears songs before when we've been on tour with them. I think they did a Splish Splash, the Taking a Bath song.
Oh, Bobby
They've
Darin.
done Sex and Candy, like so many great covers. And I was like, I think their fans would dig it. Like, let's bust out Torn. Like, that was so fun to record for the Patreon. Like, let's dust it off and let's put it in the set. And we did. And yeah, people went feral for it when we unleashed it on that crowd. And then it just kind of became this thing at live shows. And so while we were gearing up to make the new record, we're like, well, let's release Torn as like a single. Like, let's just put it out there. People are loving it live. It's like a fun thing to do to kind of launch into this new chapter. And then it just, like you said, kind of did feel like we like really embodied it. So I wanted to keep it on the record. I thought that was like, you know, it felt like it belonged on the Feels Like Hell record. And like, so we just tacked it on the end there.
Okay, so when you listen back to Feels Like Hell from start to finish as an album, is there a song now in hindsight that surprises you the most, either emotionally or simply how the final recording turned out compared to what it sounded like in your head during the writing stages?
Ooh, like during the right, like where it completely took a life of its own.
Yeah.
I sorry, this was a good question. Making me think. I guess I would say NPC because I kind of had that one that started off as just that like little opening riff, and like there was so many iterations of it. There's like I think like a voice demo where like the lyrics are like not anything what they ended up being. And it was one of those ones like I really didn't like it. Like we started writing it and I was like, I don't know about this song. Like it's not, I can't see the vision. And Annie really pushed for us to continue exploring that one because I think she really liked the like lyrics and like the concept of it because it was just something so different. So we kept hammering away at it. And then once it actually was tracked and we started really like layering onto it, I was like, oh yeah, this song rocks. Like this is really cool. And it's one of my favorites to play live now. And I think one of my favorites on the record. But in the creating it and like writing it, definitely not. It was like one of those ones where I'm like, I don't even know if I want to keep doing this. But happy we stuck with it. Thanks,
I'm
Annie.
glad you did too. Now, we've talked a lot about the singular songs on the album, but I also want to reflect on Feels Like Hell as an album itself, because when you think about Annie's two piano interludes, they feel like part of Feels Like Hell's overarching story versus, let's just say, two passages amongst a collection of songs.
Yeah.
Is the album experience something that's important to the band in a streaming era where the majority of the focus is usually pointed towards a hit single?
Yeah. I love an album. I buy records. I am someone who just loves to put on a record. I love to like just like cook and have a record on the background, or I honestly like to just sit and actually just like immerse myself and listen to a record. I love little interludes. I love like a tasteful little like throwback or callback to a theme. I love a well-crafted record. It's something with this record, we made a conscious decision to try to do. I love lyrics that call back and reference like an earlier song. Yeah, it's so fun to create and make a record in that way. And the interludes are just like, I think, such little fun things on this record. Like the NPC one or the one right before NPC is like just like Annie was just like sitting playing that on the piano in the studio. I'm like, yo, let's track that. That's like so cool. Like it's this like slowed down version of the melody. And then the one right before Great Expectations coming out of Not for Nothing. That piano part is actually in the layers of Not for Nothing. And she was soloing it to like edit something in Pro Tools with it. And then I was just like, hey, actually keep looping that, but like make it sound like it's like weird. And then I'm gonna do this like stuff where I turn on like every single pedal on my like delay pedal on my guitar, and like shout out to like Walrus Audio. I was using like a bunch of their pedals to make all like that weird undulating kind of glitchy guitar noise on it. And like those are so fun. Like it was something I just like wanted to do. And I love a record. And I'm so over the like ADHD, like single driven TikTok content bullshit that the music industry has become. I understand, but I hate it. And I will always be someone who's like, buy vinyl records, go see cool shows, make time for the art you care about. I love reading books. I'm trying to slow my brain down as much as possible these days and just like immerse myself in the things I'm actually enjoying and not feel like constantly distracted. So like, yeah, crafting an album all the way.
I'm going to dive into that a little bit, staying on topic of this album story, because when you take it beyond the music, you're personally responsible for the album's artwork, photography, and design. Is there a story behind the album art in general? Because for me, the color contrast immediately grabs my attention. And as somebody who appreciates an album as a singular piece of art, meaning the album or CD you pick up in the store that it catches your eye and then you put it in and you listen to it and you read the liner notes, it feels more impactful than when I see a band, and unfortunately more and more bands utilizing AI for their art just for a new single or an album cover. In that dual role as a musician and a designer, do you feel like the Feels Like Hell visuals are an extension of the songs on the album or a separate creative lane for you as a photographer?
So yeah, because I took the photos and did all that. That was like my first time ever attempting that. And I wanted something that like caught the eye. I do like I love like a bright, loud record cover, but I always felt like this record had like a blue feeling to me, like kind of just like sunset blue and the sunset over the water. That image kind of kept coming to my mind for some reason. And so when I like went in to like make the album cover, I had these photos that I had taken on a vacation in Italy. We were in Sorrento, and there are these little like beach cabana huts. And I took that photo and I remember like loving that photo. And then I pulled in a bunch of other images or just like textures originally for the album cover. And then I put those in there, and I honestly can't tell you what I pressed in. Like if I had to recreate it in Photoshop, I would not know how. Like I'm a designer. I didn't go to school for graphic design. I work marketing for a concert venue, and I make a lot of the like I'll localize a lot of the posters and the ad mat and stuff. So I know how to use Photoshop, but I really kind of just started like pressing stuff until it like looked really fucking cool. And then I was like, oh, sick. I think the only like concrete idea I had is I wanted the Feels Like Hell, like the text on the front really big like that, and like the hell kind of like, melting away. And then everything else I kind of just like felt like I was the painter with a blank canvas, and you're just like throwing stuff at the canvas and you're just like going crazy. And like that's kind of how I made the album art. But it feels so locked into me. Like I love it. I love the colors. I love the palette. I loved getting to be the person who spearheaded it.
And just a reminder, all the songs we're talking about tonight, you can hear over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com. Now, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about some live things now, because we've talked about studio recordings for a while. And the band is hitting the road with the Wonder Years and Knuckle Puck, which feels like a chef's kiss pairing, if you ask me as a fan. Earlier, we talked about the evolution of the band's music. How would you describe the evolution of Weakened Friends live show over that same time frame, especially given what you've learned from all the bands you've shared the stage with?
Yeah. I think we've locked into something new that's really where I've always wanted to be. There's a level of confidence that comes from just like touring a lot and doing it a lot. And I think in and around the same time where like I like to think that like writer's block stopped happening, I just really made it a conscious decision to be like, you have to approach this with like 1,000% confidence. So when you're on stage, like that is what you're meant to do. You are there, you are justified being there, and you're just gonna give the best performance ever. And I have completely locked into that. And it's like my favorite time I get to spend in my life is like getting to just perform and be on stage. And I feel like even Annie's like locked in. She's just got her thing where she's just so like the most energetic live performer I think I've ever seen in my whole entire life. She's like an energizer bunny. And yeah, we're just like, I mean, always trying to like bring the production of it all up. We tour with our amazing friend Kyle Hussey. He does our front of house. So he's our sound guy. And it just sounds so good out in the room. And just that helps with the confidence is having someone who feels like that extension of the band, who really understands the music, loves the project, and like is there to like elevate it. I mean, where I think production where you can put it in and I think that that elevates the show as well. And we're always just trying to do it in whatever capacity we can to give people a show that's like worth their money. But where it starts is really your attitude and bringing that confidence and bringing that joy and bringing that honesty to the stage. I think after years of just doing it and like you said, seeing other amazing artists do it and hearing their process, I think we've just gotten to a point where it feels really locked in.
And touring itself over the last decade, how has it changed for you both positively and maybe in terms of new challenges?
Yeah, well, we're not sleeping on floors anymore, which is great, or in our vehicle. So that's much improved. We actually get hotel rooms and like I said, like that being able to set boundaries for myself as well and just be like, I need to like also not I used to try to just like manage everything on my own. I still do tour manage for us and I'm pretty heavily involved in the day-to-day of the tour world and production and making sure everything is what it's supposed to be. But like we've been able to like hire on amazing crew. We have our friend Justin Labate, who's an amazing photographer, videographer, who also like helps with our merch. And then like having our friend Kyle out there with us, who's an incredible front of house engineer, just being able to afford those luxuries and to afford to bring those amazing people on the road with us has taken stuff off my plate and allowed me to just immerse myself more in like prioritizing the performance and prioritizing the art and trusting the team to really handle a lot of things that otherwise I was really trying to also do myself, which was like stressing me out. And so that's really awesome to just have that again luxury and have that privilege to be at a point in making music and being a band where we could barely but afford um that and I like I'm so grateful for that because it just it's so nice being able to do that. But I also am happy that I've learned how to also allow people to be the team and trust people. Like it's a really growth in trusting your team and trusting the people around you and working together and watching them shine is just as special as like getting that moment for myself. And so I love them and I'm proud of everybody we have with us. And yeah, and I guess challenges for the future is just like as you grow, then there's like other financial things that might come in the way, or like it might become, you just tour more and then it's like you're away from home more often. Obviously like the amount that we tour now, we have stuff on the horizon that's going to have us away from home quite a lot. And being able to be okay with that is like something I hope. And at this point, like physically, I feel greater than I've ever felt. Like I always feel good on the road. Like I prioritize like really healthy habits out there, which is, to preserve my voice and preserve my energy, because at the end of the day is like, again, we want to make that show the best show possible for the people who are coming out to it.
And now for the double-edged sword question.
Hmm.
When it comes to touring, or maybe even in general, would you say streaming has impacted the band in a positive or negative way, given all the stuff we said about physical media so far?
Hmm. I have nothing to base it on because we've always been a band in the streaming age, and that's where it's been like the main way people get music. So because I have nothing to compare it to, I think it is a great tool in a way that like a lot of people who come and see our band for the first time is because like we ended up on their daily playlist or we ended up like in their algorithm. And then it's awesome because they do come to shows and those are usually people like they're telling me this at merch while they're buying merch. They do want to support the art as well. I think it also eliminates a lot of middlemen that would have otherwise cost a band a lot of money or time or just like energy that doesn't exist anymore. Like now, any artist or any band or any kid, like anywhere, you don't need a record label and you don't need an agent and you don't need all this stuff to like then just go start sharing your music and sharing your craft and sharing your art and having it really reach quite a lot of people, which is such a great and tremendous tool. With that said, it's like if I think back, I'm like, would have a band like ours crushed in the 90s and probably would have had a house twice the size of mine and like probably touring on a bus. Like who knows? I don't have that comparison. I'd like to think maybe
Right.
yes, but then maybe we would have never got to the point where we get that way because it was so selective and so like networky, where now again it's like you could just put your music out there. So I think both have their pros and cons. And I think that the great thing is we exist in a world where both exist. And, you can really just foster the fan base you want to see based off of the art you create and what you prioritize and what you shed light to. And our fans have been supportive in all different kinds of ways, whether it be buying the record or merch or streaming us and sharing with their friends.
All right, full circle moment here. Are there any songs? I know we're early in the album cycle. The album was just put out last October, but are there any songs from Feels Like Hell that have maybe already taken on a new life of their own once you started playing them live?
Yeah, I think the song Lightspeed, it's the second song on the record.
I never thought I'd be something that you needed. We fell apart, left with all the broken pieces. I ran my mouth, hope you know I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. We'd spend your birthday.
That one people really was like kind of like fully took on as something they love to sing along to and are really in it.
Yeah, it's a good thing you'll never amount to anything. 'Cause you're acting like you want, but you don't. So take your feelings and you shove them down your throat.
The song Queen of Town is really a cool live moment. It's kind of this point in the set where I get a little bit I share my thoughts on the ways of the world right now. I get a little political, I guess, and a little bit on my soapbox, and then that song starts, and I feel like become this like moment in the live set that is really just like a good kind of community moment.
Now, before we wrap things up, and because this show is built around the old concept of mixtapes and pushing musical envelopes forward through playlists, what are 3 songs that you're personally rocking right now that you think the My Weekly Mixtape listeners need on their radar?
Okay, let me see. Is it okay if I like look at like what I'm rocking now? God, it's
Oh,
like all of
sure.
this. I guess okay, number one, I'm really into the new Military Gun record. I guess Kick has got to be the song. It's such a good song. I mean, like if you write a chorus where the opening lyrics are "If I kicked you in the face, I'm sorry, but I would do it again." I'm like, that's solid. So definitely check out Military Gun's Kick. Let's see. I'm like looking at what I've been listening to. Muna, who's a wonderful band, very queer, very pop, put out a song called Dancing on the Wall. The lyrics are so good. It's just fun. It's like that's classic like pop music with like such good lyricism and such good like story. They're an incredible band, have been one of my favorites for the last few years. They just put out that song, so shout out to them. And then let's see, you said three. Um, oh, there's a song called System. It's by a band called Prune, Prewn. This song to me, like it just has such a like cinematic quality to it. Like if I was in any sort of position where I could put a song into like a dramatic scene in like a movie or a show, I would like pick that song. It like sends me on one. It like I get like such like main character energy when that song comes on, and it's like so good. It's like for fans of people who, if you like the band like Wednesday, kind of has like that vibe, but the song's kind of like in a world of its own. It's so good.
The album Feels Like Hell is available on all streaming sites, but like I said earlier, physical media rules all. So be sure to pick up a copy of the album on vinyl or CD via the band's Bandcamp page. And if you do it on Bandcamp Friday, remember the band gets 100% of the profits. But even better than that, do it in person at an upcoming show. Sonia, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on My Weekly Mixtape.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
And to those listening, I want to know what your favorite song on Feels Like Hell is. Be sure to reach out to me, myweeklymixtape@gmail.com. Hit me up on social media at myweeklymixtape. Use the contact page at myweeklymixtape.com or become a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. It's free to join, and there's several tiers available if you'd like to support the show a little extra, including ad-free early access to all future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, becoming a guest on the show, and so much more. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it is you're listening, please be sure to leave a 5-star review, a thumbs up, a gold star, drop a comment, do all the things. Please help spread the word about My Weekly Mixtape to the music fans in your life. Once again, my name is Brian Colburn. This has been My Weekly Mixtape, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.